Now I'd like to introduce our guest hosts. First, we have Melody. Melody Boyd. She brings 20 years of educational experience specializing in curriculum leadership, instructional coaching, professional development, and elementary math instruction. She is currently in her 11th year as an elementary math specialist with Klein ISD. Melody continues to leverage her classroom experience and leadership abilities to support and mentor her math teachers. Next, we have Jessica Crawford. She brings 8 years of educational experience both in the classroom and in instructional coaching for her grade level. She is currently a fifth grade math teacher, LTAC, lead teacher, and coach. She brings with her classroom experience all across third, fourth, and fifth grades. Jessica is currently in her 8th year with Klein and continues to grow her knowledge and skills in the classroom as well as her leadership skills by coaching others in fourth and fifth grade classes. Our objectives for today are to, 1, foster student ownership of their learning through data binders, 2, discover a systematic approach to personalized learning, and 3, to make this entire process your own so you can implement it yourself. We're going to take a quick pause and I'm going to stop sharing and allow Melody to take over, and then I will hand it off to them. Whenever you're ready, Melody.
Okay, it's saying the host has disabled participant screen sharing.
Well, that's not ideal. All right, just 1 second.
Stay tuned, everyone.
Okay. I tried changing you to co-host.
There we go.
Now give it a shot.
It works. It
Awesome.
works now.
Thank you for your patience, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, so everyone can see my screen now?
We can.
The blue? Perfect. Okay, well, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about student data binders and how to personalize that experience for our students. The first thing we are going to look at today, these are what we call the personalized learning tickets. And so after each test, district test or campus test, we pull in Eduphoria by student, each TEK by TEK, and the percentage of that TEK. So I look up what each of those TEKs are. I kind of make them student friendly. Of course, you see this is a 5th grade PL, we call them PL tickets. And so the student can see where they were last year on STAAR, and that is important because that addresses the domain 2 for growth. And so we really emphasize to students that wherever you were last year, depending where they are, they need to either grow, jump thresholds, or they need to maintain if they were meets or masters, of course. Okay, so are there any questions about what that looks like or what we do with these? We'll go, basically, I'm going to show you in a little bit of video of how the teachers utilize these and have student conferences after each test. And we do actually take a day, we plan a day. So when we look at our long range planning calendar, we actually take a day after any assessment to do this. So it does take time, but it is well worth it.
So this is what we use for our student data tracker. This goes in our students. Each student has a data binder or folder that they accompany with them to each content. And so for math, this is what it looks like. And again, it's very user friendly for your students at the bottom, along with the skill or TEK that they're working on. And using their personalized learning ticket that Melody just showed you, they are able to go in and color based on the color coded proficiency levels at the top where they scored. And so this will give them an idea of what they need to be practicing and working on when they have data binder time or during what we call their win block for what I need to practice. And there's different ways they can do that. We currently have online resources that they can use based on TEK. And I also have a crate that allows them to do pencil to paper, as well, so that they can work through the skills they have not yet mastered and get some more practice with those skills.
And sometimes that can look like a game. They can have game boards, they can have task cards and that physical crate. So they can do still hands-on because we don't want our students on a computer all day. But we do have access, or they have access to delve into the standards that they need based on their student data tracker.
So at some point you can have students across your classroom working on all different things, but it's based on what they personally need to grow in a certain area.
And the standards that you see here on this student data tracker, the ones that are bolded are the readiness standards.
This is a student sample of what that would look like as they color it in. Now, one of the things that I do, and I know other teachers do in their classroom, is like maybe the first red box that you see right above 4.2a, I might put whatever assessment that was. So let's say that was their very first CCA. They would put CCA 1 in that box and then color over it red. And so the next one right above it that's colored yellow, that might be CCA 2, where they've spiraled in that skill. So the student is able to see the growth that they've made. They have now gone from did not meeting that TEAC to approaching. They may not go all the way to masters right away, but they're able to see the growth and that what they're doing practice-wise in their data binder is working and effective.
And you can look at 4.2b. I mean, that student, that is a huge success. They went from did not meet, and then they slowly but surely went from did not meet to approaches, then to meets and to masters. And we celebrate those students. And, you know, teachers celebrate them in different ways, but they are recognized for even going from did not meets to approaches. So just moving thresholds, that is huge and celebrated and recognized on our campus.
Okay, so I'm going to explain the left side of our screen where it talks about the students ask yourself. So like Melody said, we do plan a day when we long range plan for conferencing. If you don't have the accountability piece in there, then the whole purpose of the data binders will not be effective. And so the students know what they're working on and where they are in the process. So this is a poster that I have up that my students know what they're going to talk to me about when they come to my table to conference. These are things that they're going to tell me, you know, where they're trying to go, where were they on that skill? What are they doing to close those gaps? Are they watching? Are they having to go back and watch a reteach video? Are they doing, you know, some sort of task cards? Like what are you doing to master that skill? And then if you have mastered it, for my enrichment kids, we do talk about how are we going to challenge ourselves. The very bottom is how I keep that accountability. I have index cards with all the students' names on them, and they're on a like a ring per class. And so every time I conference them, I write down the date, I write down the skill, and give myself a reminder of what that skill is. And then we talk about where they were, where they want to be, what part of the process in their personalized learning journey that they're in. And so when we meet back up, we do have a rubric as well. Every quarter, they have to master so many skills within their binder. And I do take that for a grade to help hold that accountable.
Okay. And then on the right side, this is actually a table tent. And so this is for teachers that are not quite comfortable, maybe a new teacher that doesn't really know what to ask students. So this is, like I said, a table tent. And so one side is facing the teacher, and it really is just giving sentence stems for the student to answer questions. So for example, it tells the teacher to acknowledge their hard work. And then, so the first question would be, on which skill did you do well? And then the student would say, I did well on 5.3b because I did all my homework, whatever. And so the next question, then you just keep going. And so which skill do you need more practice? What was challenging? What can you do next time? And it gives the teacher ideas to ask the student. And then it also gives sentence stems for the students to respond. And not every teacher needs that. And not every teacher wants that, but we do provide it for, you know, like I said, maybe a new teacher. or just a teacher who wants it. All right. Are there any questions so far in the chat?
We have none in the chat so far. Oh, no,
okay.
I take that back. One just popped. Stephen Steinke, I apologize if I mispronounced that, asks, I missed the very start. Will we have access to these? Oh, yes. Yes, Stephen, you will indeed. We'll get the slides emailed to you along with a copy of the slide deck itself. I do have a question for you, Melody and Jessica.
Yeah.
It looks like y'all's process is very tactile, right? It's very hands-on. What benefits do you guys see in having the kids do this with like a data binder in their hands versus doing this in like a digital format with like maybe a digital portfolio?
Well, we've never done a digital portfolio, so I wouldn't really say I can compare them. I mean, I don't know how to answer that other than we've always done just a hands-on binder. Some grade levels do folders, but the part of their learning is like a part of their actual learning part. I don't know how to say that. The learning part of it is through some like Schoology, some of them progress learning, like she said, and then others are hands-on. So I can't tell you if there's a benefit either way because we've only done hands-on.
I will say that I think allowing them, and I'm sure there's a way in technology wise to have them color in some sort of tracker. But I will say that to me is another process of teaching the students. And I know that we've been doing data binders since I was in third grade, using more of a hard copy. And so it's just kind of trickled up that way to where it's what they're used to. Definitely not opposed to going more technology based, but having them truly take out that red and yellow and green and blue and color in what their progress is for some of these kids, it's just very eye-opening. Like for them to be able to see the color change and them witness it does make a big difference on the personalized the way they take that in. Like it's very personalized to them. They understand it, and it's ownership. They take a lot of ownership in doing that. And I can tell you that these data binders work across the grade level. I was in fourth grade last year, and I had an extremely high group of kids. I was very and it's hard. It's really hard sometimes to move those kids that are already at a mastery or meets level. And with these data binders, we were able to grow our meets 20%.
Oh, wow.
They knocked it out of the park because of this, honestly.
That was actually another question I've written down. What kind of outcomes in terms of like percentages have you guys seen as a result of implementing these things?
Huge growth. As long as it's used with fidelity, that you can tell the teachers that use it daily and consistently, and they're checking in, they're doing the conferencing, they're doing all the pieces. There's huge growth. And as far as, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so back to the original question I had, it sounds like either way, it's more about the student ownership of the process than it is about the modality, right?
And they're really exactly. And, there probably is pros and cons to both because a binder you can lose, a folder you can lose, how kids are not all, nice and organized. So, I would say that there's pros and cons to both. But I think you could just try it out. I mean, even if you had one teacher, partner teachers, one teacher tries it this way, another teacher tries it this way, or a teacher tries it binder one year and the next year online, So I would think maybe it's just according to the teacher, maybe the class. So I don't see why one would be, necessarily worse than the other.
Awesome. Thank you.
Welcome.
So this is how our students stay on track when they're working through their binders. So we have these little tickets, these personalized learning tickets, and the student will write the TEK at the top, whichever TEK they are working on. And so they have a guideline of what they are going to do. So there's a video. I like to use 5-minute math. You can pretty much use any kind of video that you want that's going over that skill. I would always just suggest that you watch it first, obviously, just to make sure that it's also aligned to what you're doing. This video is put into Schoology, so they are to write in their math journal, take some notes over the video. And then we have what's called Marvel Math Games, which are just little index cards with problems on them, but we make it a game. We give them game boards and we allow them to make a dice game out of it.
And Marvel Math does come with the game boards.
Yes, it does. We have asked that they answer 4 out of 5 correct, and this is self-checking. So I do have an area where they go and they're able to self-check. Then we have a white fast focus page, and the reason we use fast focus is because it is TEAC based. So they're able to answer page 1 and page 2, and that's also self-checking. They must get at least a meets on this page in order to move on to the green fast focus, which is what we consider our exit ticket. From there, I grade the exit ticket. I have a folder that those tickets are turned in, and I try to make a point by the end of the day, those are graded and handed back so that the next day those students know, am I able to move on to the next skill, or do I need a little bit more practice on the skill that I'm currently working on? And then of course it gives them direction. If they've missed one, what they do. If they've missed more than one, where do we go from there? And so it just kind of helps them keep on track. And then when they come to me for conferencing, if they have finished a skill, they will bring this card with them along with the Marvel Math page that they did their work on, their white fast focus page, and then their green page. And I staple everything together, hole punch it, and it goes in their data binder behind their tracker so that they can keep track of the skills that they have mastered.
And this could be also tweaked for the lower grades. So, I mean, it really could be tweaked for any teacher on any campus, because you might not have Marvel Math or you might not like Marvel Math. So you can exchange that out for something else. So it's totally all up to the teacher, but this is just what we use. And so make it your own. And it's really very laid out, and the kids, after they practice and it's used, it's expected, and it's like clockwork, and the kids, they really succeed, and they love seeing their progress.
They do. And I was going to say, when you have those kids that have that ownership, I've gotten to the point where I've got some kids who aren't as excited about working in their data binders. So I use other students as my voice. Like, instead of me telling them how important it is, I have other students from other classrooms visit and, explain to them, this is where I was. And because I did this, this, and this is where I ended up. And when they hear it from a peer and they're able to see their peers' progress, it definitely helps them want to, be more successful as well.
Right. So we're going to look at a couple videos. So in the video, what I've done is I've clipped a picture of what she's referring to and what they're talking about. So that way you can kind of like refer to what document they're looking over. So this was a little boy in 3rd grade, and he had a test over, I don't even know what it says, multiplication. And so you can see that there's one red. So he obviously knows exactly what standard he's going to work on. Okay, I'm going to start. Oh, wait.
And this is one of our 3rd grade classes.
Hang on. Oh.
You set a goal of what? What was your goal? 80. And on this test, you scored a 95. So that goes there. How do you feel about that?
Good.
What does that mean, you scored a 95?
Master.
Masters. So we're going to put masters there. And what color are we going to make it? Blue.
Good job.
Very good job. Okay, so now I want you to look at your teaks, okay? Look at your teaks specifically right here. What do you notice?
That it changed.
It changed from what? What do you mean it changed?
All hundreds.
All hundreds.
Except for that one.
Except for that one. So what is this?
3.5B.
Perfect. So this is representing and solving multiplication and division, right? So this is the only one that you have a 75. So look at your teaks right here, baby. Okay, I want you to notice how hard you've worked to get all the way up here to all these blues, right? So now if we take this screen out, if we take this sheet out right now, and we compare. Okay, look, 3.2A is now 100, 2D is 100, 3.4A, look, we mastered that one. Oh my goodness. 3.5A, we have mastered. C, we mastered. F, look, another master. H is a master, and K we had already mastered. So this one right here is a 75. So this is the only one that kind of went down just a tiny bit, right? And so what can we do with this teak right here next?
You can go on study plan and do it.
Go on your study plan and do your progress learning. Okay, so for teaks I need to practice, why don't you put this one right here, 3.5B. Okay, and this is the strengths that you have. What do you think you're the best at? We don't have to write all of them because they're all blue. What did you work really hard on last time? Do you remember? Look right here. So this was your last one. Okay, and you worked really hard on 3.4A because you weren't getting that at all, right? Now let's look at your 3.4A. Master. Look at that.
All right, and then let's see, I'm gonna go back here and I'm going to show just 2 more video clips. Are not quite as long as the first 2. Just this is from the teacher perspective, and then we'll look at the student perspective. Hey, Ms. Fisher, I was going to ask you a couple questions about your students' data folders. How has this impacted or changed your students in their learning, their process?
So after we do any kind of assessment, CCA, QSE, they're given personalized learning tickets, and they know from those tickets what skill they need to work on. So I meet with them one-on-one, and they get to see exactly where their strengths and their weaknesses are. Then they take the ownership during their win time of looking up exactly where they need to be and doing extra things that we have implemented in Schoology, that we have Marvel Math, Progress Learning, that are specific towards those teaks. It gets them really excited about trying to get better on that teak the next time. So you'll see them when I've given another test, oh, I'm gonna go look at 3.4C because I've really been trying to work on that one. And it just gets them excited about trying to get the colors changed and trying to grow in their learning.
Awesome. So can I see where they track their overall data?
So we set a goal before any kind of test that we take. I sit with them one-on-one, and we set a goal before they take their test. And then after their test, I get back with them. I tell them what their score was, and then they color in the color according to whether it's masters, meets, you know, and so on. And then I give them their actual ticket, okay, which is what I just showed you, where they can track, you know, what they're going to want to work on, which teaks were their strengths. And then here we have the graph where we track each test. So she started here in a 75, and then she went down. So she made this a really big goal of hers to try to get back up to the 3.2A. So that's what she's been working on. And you can see she mastered it.
That is awesome.
Okay.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. And then let's see. And then our last one is going to be a cute little friend right here. All right, this is Mason, and he is a 3rd grader. Mason, can you tell me about your data folder and how you use it?
So, how you use it is when you get a different test, you put your goal that you want to get, and you work to it. And that's what I did, and I got lots of masters.
Oh, okay. So, how do you know what standards or teaks to work on?
You go over here. Right here or here.
Okay, so what is this?
This is where you need help and you know if you get masters or not. So this one I need to work on.
And what is that?
3.5B. And then over here, I got other ones. Like, I need to work on this one.
What is that?
The same thing.
Oh, okay. So that's 3.5B. So you know exactly what you need to be working on during intervention time.
And I think this is math science.
Yeah.
I got a yellow, and then I got meats.
Nice. So that's improvement, isn't it?
Yeah.
Does it help you to see what you have done and where you're going and setting goals? Like, does this whole process help you?
Yeah.
Any questions from just looking at those videos? We'll talk about in just a little bit how I pull the data for those personalized learning tickets. But I didn't know if was there any questions in the chat, or does anyone?
None in the chat, but I do have
Okay.
another one. And I think
Okay.
your videos really make it pretty relevant. The young man you guys showed, he said he's in third grade, right?
Correct.
How do you go about, because I know it can be hard for kids to think in this way, especially at first when they're getting introduced to this kind of thing about reflecting and tracking their progress. How do you actually engage students with getting started in this process and helping them become more independent?
I think it really does start depending on what the grade level starts. And I know, like I said, we started it in third grade. And of course, third grade, it does take a little bit more time to get them accustomed to the conversation, which I think is where the table tense that Melody was talking about earlier, when you're conferencing with them, really comes into play, because it gives the students those sentence stems and it allows them to understand, what they need to work on. And then we do have to do a little bit more guiding in third grade. Now, however, since we started really, our campus started really pushing these data binders, we have now trickled them down into second grade. So I think that the earlier that we can really start getting our students accustomed to looking at their data and truly understanding what their data means, the older they get, the easier it's going to be. And I mean, these students, they really do take that ownership, especially in fifth grade, like being able to really look at it and know exactly what they need, where they're going, and how they're going to get there. But I think it really just starts with trying to get it in there, get it in front of them a lot earlier. And the second grade, well, we do standards-based grading here for the primary grades, and so those will look a little different. And I think I have an example in a little bit. But I was just gonna say about that.
So y'all kind of tailor the process if they're a little younger, it's
Yeah,
a
we
little
do. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. So the second the second set of data that they color in, I feel like really hits home with them, because that's where they can start seeing growth. Yeah. Or decline. So the first one is like, this is how you do it. You're coloring this in. This is why. So it does take time. But when they get that second test and seeing and knowing that they've been practicing with intentionality, and they see that progress, I think that's when it really clicks. Like, oh, I'm really tracking what I'm learning here. So once they start really seeing, like you said, I think that the first couple times, especially the first time that you conference with them as young as third grade, it may take a little while. You probably won't get through conferencing with all students in one day. You're going to have to, carve out some time. But once they start really, like Melody said, once they start really seeing the benefit of it, it's almost like something clicks and they are like, I can do this. Like, this is what I need to do. Like, when I go to my teacher, this is what she's going to want to know. This is what I can tell her. And so it really does, they see the benefit. Right. And the struggling learners, we make a big deal. We recognize everyone, but especially those struggling learners, that maybe did not meet on everything. And then they finally get and approaches. I mean, we celebrate, we recognize, we send them, they could go to show their old teacher. They can go up to the front office and show the principal what their growth is. And so even just that growth, seeing it and owning it, it just makes them so proud of themselves. And it's funny because when the data tracker, the student tracker that they have, you notice that there's tons of teaks at the bottom. And so I've even got fifth graders at this point who are like, Miss Crawford, I've mastered everything so far that we have learned, right? And I'm like, okay. I'm like, so what are we going to do to challenge ourselves? And they will literally look at that tracker and they're like, you haven't taught us teak so-and-so yet. I'm like, oh no, that's 2 weeks away. They get a jump start. They start researching. They start Googling.
And they start pulling up all these things and making a slide deck to show me, hey, when you teach this, maybe you should tell them this. I found this. And they just start really digging into their learning to get ahead of the game.
And sometimes, like we have Ms. Crawford has a student who, for her enrichment, she's creating a review game, and they are actually going to be using that
during our STAAR camp.
Right. So it's a pretty cool experience to see.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So here is the part where we talk about how how do I get that data in there? And so depending on how comfortable you are with Autocrat, so if you are totally comfortable, then that's the short answer. It's Autocrat. If you are not comfortable or you've never even heard of it, I'm just going to click on this. It's basically when I go to Eduphoria, I pull the student data, I pull it by student, by TEKS at the top. And then I have to do a little bit of editing where I have this the teacher name, and it might be called a section, or, so you have to kind of finagle that and see how you want your teacher data pulled in. But I wanted it by section. And so that's what I did. And so I also had their STAAR from last year on there so they could track their growth with that. So let me just click on this real quick. Okay. So you can kind of go down the rabbit hole, but this will just be kind of a quick Autocrat run through. So these things up here, I don't know if you see my pointer, but where it says student name, the things that are all circled in yellow, those are called tags. And so it has like the little less than sign. I'm a math teacher, and the greater than sign on either side. And so that's basically shows or tells the program what to pull from, what column to pull from. And so that's what it looks like as a template. So I create the template first, and let's see. And this is what it looks like after it's been populated. Okay. So here is an example of a second grade standards-based grading template. So I made it look more, I use pictures more than the words of what they were learning. And then I also put a 1, 2, 3, or 4, because that's how they're graded, which is an extra step. But it's totally doable. And if you have any questions, I've done this presentation quite a bit. And so feel free, please, to reach out to me, because people say, they'll hit me up with their questions, or, something's not working out. And I mean, they're very common errors probably that you're doing, and that's totally fine. And I even have a common error page in just a second. So this is what this is an example of a second grade one with standards-based grading, 1, 2, 3, and 4 over to the side, so the kids know exactly what their strengths and weaknesses are, because they don't do percentages. Okay, we've looked at that. Okay, so where do you find Autocrat? So you have to be in Google Sheets, and then you go to extensions, and then add-ons, and then you go to get add-ons, and then you just type in Autocrat, and then you install it. And so this was for a presentation that we actually dug in and practiced, but these little tips over to the side, these 7 tips, this is just kind of reminders that you have to be in Google Sheets, not at Excel. My data, I include the current section or the testing structure, depending on what your view looks like. You have to do the SE breakdown in Eduphoria. That's how you get to your TEKS. You cannot have any merged cells, and that it'll tell you like can't do it. So make sure all of your cells are unmerged, and you're going to have all of your top row has to be the little titles that match the tags, and that's what I have there. These are your tags. And then I know this is a lot of information overload, but the more you dig into it, the more I should say less cumbersome it becomes.
And the more you do it, the easier.
Yes. At first it was pretty painful, but we've done it so much now that we can do it in our sleep probably. And then, okay, number 7. Here is one that I have learned the hard way so many times. Whenever you have all your data and you have your features over in the very last column, which is where I put it, I always sort it. I shouldn't have said filter. I should have said sort. Sort by teacher. So when it prints them, all the classes are together because I have kept it where all the students are, it's an alphabetical order by student. And then I had to sit there and take every personalized learning ticket and figure out what class, you know, I had to read it obviously because the class is on there, but I had to sort them, which is not fun. It's tedious. So that number 7 is huge, and you will do it. You will probably, you know, you'll probably forget and you're like, oh, she told me that. That's okay. We've done it many, many times.
Yeah. We've also, when you have to make sure that your template fits on one page. Because there are times that after you get through the Autocrat and you're like, yes, here it is, it's all my sheets. And then you go to click on it to print, you will notice that it's printing on like 2 pages, which really messes up what the students are seeing. So making sure that it really all fits on one page and looking at the printed version before you actually print.
Yeah. I know that was a lot right there, but we have practice data right here that we've done before where you can click and play with that. Here's a template. You have to make a copy of it. And so this is what the template would look like. And then you would go over here and then you would use your practice data. And it's in Google Sheets. I want to say, okay, so I left it very mean here because you can see that I have merged cells. So this is what it looks like. And so this is something that you can play with. So what you would have to do is unmerge all these cells, delete this top row, and make sure that the very top row up here are these titles or tags. These tags match your template. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to get back. Okay.
We have one quick question, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Sure.
Anna Long asked what because you mentioned an extension, right? Is there a Microsoft version of that extension that you're aware of?
Ooh, I don't know that. I don't know. You mean like with PowerPoint or Excel?
I would imagine so.
No,
Yes,
I don't
Anna
think
confirms yes.
no, you have to, as far as I know, don't take that to the bank, but as far as I know, it has to be in Google Sheets. Good question. So here's some, I wanted to show you all the folder. Oh, templates folder. This is awesome right here. If you go here, there's a whole bunch of templates that you can borrow. You can take them and use them as, you can make a copy and make them as your own. There's an email one that you can send out to parents, but there's also these, and I can throw some more in for different grade levels, but that's a really good little folder as well. Let's see, here's some one-pagers.
All these resources are going to be available off of the Autocrat link on that slide, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to confirm that for those watching. I think we're getting a lot of
yeah. We have the data trackers available for you. There's lots of things to dig into. There's videos. We got some pathways. There's a one-pager. This was what we looked like. So we used this one year. This is what our 3rd grade after they took the benchmark. So there's a lot more. So we had to kind of change the way that it looked. I'm going to shrink this up a little bit. So we had to kind of change the formatting of it because there was way too many standards. And like Ms. Crawford was saying, you can't, when you use these templates, you can't, for some reason, maybe someone on here knows why. If you go too far down in the margin at the bottom, that's when it pushes your output onto a second page. So I try to keep it as high up and away from that bottom margin as possible. I don't know why it's finicky. I'm sure there's a reason. I just don't know what it is. All right. Are there any more questions about that?
Yep. Do y'all have any in your resources secondary examples?
No, we don't, only because when we've done this presentation, we've only done it for K-5. So that is something that I would say if you want to take our templates and then just copy and then just tweak them, because it's going to be the same idea, just the standards are going to be different. But all the Autocrat, everything's going to be the same. You just would change the standards.
And then a quick note for Kristen Wheeler, you have your hand up. If you could drop your question in the chat or in the QA, and we'll make sure to get to it.
Okie dokie. And then we have some common errors here, and this is what we were kind of talking about. I made this slide because these are the things that I kept doing wrong. So this is like a little cheat sheet for myself. And so the unmerging and making sure you're using Google Sheets, and that the first top row is that's matching your tags and things like that. And then I have some helpful resources. There's step-by-step instructions, which is very awesome. If you're a learner like me, where it's like, okay, I need it piece by piece, one step at a time. And then there's a video instruction, and then Ms. Crawford made this one pager kind of for herself, and so she shared that with you as well. Was there any questions about that?
No additional ones.
Okay, so I mean, Autocrat is a webinar in itself. Honestly, it takes a while, and for you to really understand it and get used to it, you're going to have to just do it, jump in and practice it, and you're going to make some errors, and we all do still. And you just have to keep at it, and it is so beneficial for the teacher and the student to know exactly what standard they need to be working on. So it's just huge. It's a game changer, honestly.
And like I said, it definitely helps them take that ownership between when you add the personalized learning ticket from Eduphoria by Autocratting, and you take the student data tracker and you combine them, it's amazing the growth and the progress that our students witness every year.
Yeah. Right. Let's see. I see some stuff in the. Are there any questions? Oops. Are there any questions that we did not answer, or?
None have popped in yet, but yeah, if you
wonderings?
guys have them, feel free to drop anything else.
Okay. Here's our contact information. I added some more resources at the bottom. There's the conferencing tent. There's a blank student data tracker. There's the intervention tickets. So there's lots of things. Just copy it, make it your own, tweak it to whatever your campus, what your campus needs are.
And just a reminder, all of these resources, you'll get them with the email, with the webinar. So you'll get this slideshow as a PDF, and you'll be able to get live links to all of these resources if you need them. Awesome. I see no additional questions, so I'll go ahead and get us closed out. Melody and Jessica, both from Klein, for those of you still with us, great district, for coming with us and sharing your expertise. On behalf of today's team and all of Eduphoria, we'd really, again, like to just thank everyone for coming today and participating, and I hope you all have a great day.
Thank you so much.